Greetings, everyone. My name is Jesse. Welcome back to VGM Vibes. This is episode 11. We are going to be focusing on the desert landscapes and levels and sand and all that inspired stuff in video games. We have a lot of songs to go through, a lot of different locations, consoles, years, composers, and I knew this was going to be kind of a big episode, but I didn't know it was going to be this big. It's a little bigger than normal, and I took a lot of suggestions from Patreon and YouTube comments, but also, per usual, like these are mostly songs that I know and experienced myself, but it's all over the place. Something I wanted to bring up in this episode, which I thought was kind of interesting, was the heavy use of this musical theory thing called the Phrygian scale or the Phrygian dominant scale. It is used a lot in these songs, and it is kind of one of the most used scales when it comes to desert stuff. And you don't really need to know music theory here, but just know that a lot of the songs revolve around this scale right here, which might sound familiar to you. If that sounds exotic and Eastern, well, that is the whole point. And a lot of these songs are going to feature that kind of stuff, and in the chord progressions and in the leads. So you're going to notice a lot of airiness in these songs, a lot of almost taking the effect of wind, so to say. And I think it's a really cool exotic flavor to video game music, and we're going to jump into that now. We're going to be starting off with a game that I never played and have heard very, very little of, but have been kind of intrigued upon reading some stuff here lately, and that is coming up now. We're starting off this list with a game that I've never played and slightly have heard about. That's Final Fantasy 12, and in this case it's the Zodiac Age, which up until me doing research for this video I didn't even know there was the Zodiac Age. I don't know there was a, I guess, like a remaster of it. So that was news to me when I was looking stuff up. And you know, when I was seeing footage of the game and where this plays, I was just kind of like pleasantly surprised at what I was looking at, and I could see why it's so divisive. It seems to be, now mind you, I only saw like the first like 30 minutes of footage, which I think is where both these songs play. By the way, this is the Dalmasca, Esther Sand, and Streets of Rabanasta. I think it's Rabanasta. The R might be silent. I heard some characters say it. But I just wanted to say, like, if I say something wrong, then that's totally possible. But from what it seems like, a lot of this game takes place like kind of in a desert setting, at least at the beginning. And you start off in the streets of Rabanasta, and this is kind of like kingdom in the sand. You're surrounded by deserts, and one of the first things you do is go out into the Dalmasca Esther Sand, where I believe, if I recall correctly, you fought a tomato. And yeah, so apparently it was like reorchestrated for the Zodiac Age, and I was told that there's no battle music in this game except for the bosses, which I kind of noticed in like a random encounter. You just kind of walk up to it. It seems more like what a modern Final Fantasy looks like now. So in a way, when I saw footage for 12, it looked like a 12 walked, so, you know, 13, 15 Rebirth can run type of thing. It's got the action sort of style. And also it's Hitoshi Sakamoto, which I don't really know much about, but apparently I've heard through Final Fantasy Tactics, which is exciting because the songs sound very similar. And if I recall correctly, I'm pretty sure they share the same universe. Something like that, the comments have told me. And what I found interesting about this composer, though, is that they're also part of 13 Sentinels, which sounds nothing like Tactics or Final Fantasy 12. And another fun fact, which I did not know, was they were part of the original Bloody Roar game, which everyone hears me talk about Bloody Roar 2. I've never played 1, and I've never even heard the music of 1. But it was in 1 a little bit, so. Anyways, FF12 seems like this kind of, you know, unpopular game that maybe, you know, there's one thing that I will say. The comments said when I heard these songs and reacted to them that this game would do well now, like if it came out now, and I think I would agree with that. It's more in line with what's out there now, right? It looks like 16, well, gameplay-wise, and maybe just at the time people weren't ready for it. Who knows? But the music, I should say before I get out of here, is really regal, orchestral. There's this big sense of adventure, and from what I gather, the main character, Vaughn, I believe, has this kind of aspiration of, I don't know the exact term, but I guess maybe being a pilot of an airship, I think, something along those lines. So there is that kind of hint of adventure and aviation in the soundtrack as well. But that is Final Fantasy XII, the Dalmasca, Esther Sand, and Streets of Ramanasta. The next song to be featured is from a series that I'm pretty familiar with now, and I'm about to start the third entry very, very soon. That'll be Xenoblade 3. But this is Xenoblade Chronicles X, or Xenoblade Chronicles Cross, or Xenoblade Cross, which just came out with the remaster as I'm writing this right now. So this is Oblivia Day and Night, and this is composed by Hiroyuki Suwano, who I had to look up. I'm sorry, I don't watch anime, but apparently they're most known for Attack on Titan. I don't even know what that is, but it was a big relevant point that was told to me. But it's a big factor, I think, because the music sounds unlike the other Xenoblade stuff I've heard. The game overall seems very unique to itself. It has its own kind of vibe, its own world. There seems to be a lot of emphasis on like technology, and from what I've seen a little bit, it looks kind of like futuristic. So anyways, the music is totally different from the other ones. And Oblivia is, from what I gather, I've never played this game, and I kind of wanted to avoid spoilers too because I don't know if I'm going to play it. Seems to be this kind of barren wasteland type of place with some water around. And what I liked about it is this kind of subtle nuance to flamenco in there, which I thought was really nice. And one thing I enjoyed about it is the use of these kind of flamenco style like leads, but also when it goes into the nighttime, it does this thing that I haven't really heard too much in music, where we hear like this jazzy Rhodes piano, but with like really big orchestral drums in the background. So it's like half anime, half, like New Orleans or something. It's such a bizarre sound and has just like a smoothness to it that I really enjoy. And there's also parts in the song that remind me of country music as well, like country guitar, which is kind of bizarre. The whole thing of Oblivia is very, well, the whole soundtrack of X is pretty unique, right? There's a lot of vocals, a lot of, I think there was even some rap in there too. But Oblivia so far seems to be my personal favorite. And since it happens to be this somewhat reminiscent thing of a desert, then it totally fit in here. One thing I almost forgot to mention is that this song features a really cool thing with the pedal tone. Pedal tone is when you hear one note repeated over and over and over. And they do that in this song with, I believe it's a G, and it's just like, just to add this kind of flavor. Those are always cool because it's like a less is more situation. And the other thing I forgot was that this song features a really cool electric bass solo, which is super rare. There's just a lot of musical things that you don't really see clumped together in this song. So it really shows me that this composer is the real deal. And maybe I should hear some Attack on Titan stuff. So if there's any Attack on Titan songs you want me to hear, and I'll react to, let me know. It's about time we feature some sports games around here. And what better sport than mini golf, my favorite. This is a game called Golf with Your Friends, and the song is called Oasis. This is from the Egyptian level, which I'm pretty sure is just called Oasis. This is a fun game that I've played for many years now, and I played it a lot with my mod team, sometimes my Discord. Every now and then, I'll hop on a random Twitch stream and just play with my friends, as you can see by the title. It's a very simple game to play. You just use your mouse and just, hold and release. But there's a lot of cool physics. There's a lot of party physics. You can bounce the ball. You can have different, you can use an actual, hockey puck or different shapes just to make it harder. There's some video game inspired stuff in there, like Worms is a Worms level. But the Oasis level is filled with sand. It is Egypt. We got pyramids. It's actually kind of a hard, in my opinion, one of the harder stages. But eventually, I think it is the last 4 holes that most of the course is outside, and then I believe the last 4 you enter a pyramid, and then you have that, and you got the Anubis statues and all that. It sounds like a song also that we're going to feature a little later in the episode, but definitely has that Egyptian flavor. The Egyptian instruments is composed by Chris Wilshire. Don't know what else they've done, and I haven't really heard much other stuff from this developer of Team 17. But Golf with Your Friends is just something that whenever it goes on sale, I try to like get some people into it just so we can have something to play. And I think they're coming out with a sequel soon, but yeah, this is actually surprisingly one of the games I thought of when I was doing the Desert Vibes. I immediately, because the first thing I do is immediately think of the games I've played in order, the games I've played, and then the songs that I've heard on the channel first. And when I thought of Desert, I was like, oh yeah, there's Oasis in Golf with Your Friends, and that's here now. It's a really cool song. It totally fits the whole desert vibe, and I just recommend everyone to play this if you have some time to spare.
Hello everyone, my name is Keats. I'm a voice actor, video game lover, and VGM enthusiast. You may recognize me from all of Jesse's videos that are typically about Persona or Fire Emblem. I recommend a lot of those. When Jesse approached me to talk about Fire Emblem music, I honestly felt incredibly honored. Fire Emblem is probably the most important game series for me. It's the first game series I ever truly loved. And when I heard it was for the Desert video, I kind of had a bit of a laugh because Fire Emblem Desert levels are notorious for being boring and awful. They're slow, they're visually unappealing, and they usually have some annoying gimmick to go along with it. But the same can't be said for the music in these levels. Case in point, Bright Sandstorm from Fire Emblem Engage. Composed by Hiroki Morishita, Rei Kondo, and Takura Kanazaki. What's great about this song is it tells a story within its tone. To clarify, I'm going to have to talk a bit about the context of the song, so minor spoilers for Fire Emblem Engage Chapter 12. We see our heroes lost in the desert, struggling to find any sign of the Solm capital. This is audibly shown with the beginning of the song feeling very imposing, the chanting in the background almost feeling like a bit of a warning of the harshness of the desert. But at the same time, the rhythm feels like an upbeat tempo. After a long walk in the arid Tula desert, they come across a man named Fogato, who is just kind of chill as hell. He offers them guidance, and all of a sudden, the players are shown that Solm isn't as scary of a place as they once thought, which is a very nice welcome change of pace after just suffering a very heavy loss to the team not long ago. And as you continue to explore, you notice something. Everyone they meet in Solm is just a fun-loving, carefree spirit, and is perfectly expressed in this part of the song here, which happens to be my favorite part. The change to the bouncy rhythm perfectly encapsulates the journey you're about to have through Solm, meeting all of these very quirky and upbeat characters. I've gone this whole time, by the way, and haven't even mentioned the fiery version of the song, which, for those of you who don't know, Fire Emblem have dynamic music. There's the map version of a song, and then there's the in-battle version of a song. Here's an example of what that sounds like in-game.
I won't falter. Dream well.
I love this track, and I think it makes an excellent case for great desert tracks. Thank you all for listening to my yapping. Thank you again, Jesse, for having me on, and we'll go play Fire Emblem.
The next game we're going to be talking about is a returning champion here on the VGM Vibe series. Is Donkey Kong, but the debut of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. It was the first time I heard this game. This is Scorch and Torch, composed by David Wise. And man, let me tell you, when I uploaded that video, which was not too long ago, I got like nothing but praise. People love this game. I don't know why. Maybe it was like, I didn't look into why. Maybe there was a big time between the last game, or it's just really well done and deserves praise. But it was just overwhelming, and you know, it's nice to see David Wise make a return of the iconic Donkey Kong composer and his chill vibes. But this song kind of bends the rules a little bit, right? When I always make the post to Patreon or wherever asking for a certain theme of a game. I throw in some keywords as well. Like in this case, I was like, okay, desert, sand, dunes, hot, savanna, and one of those were suggestions here. So while this may not be a desert per se, a savanna is pretty close. It's whatever. If I was being totally honest, this more fits so in like maybe the fire episode. But considering that it's going to take a long time before I start redoing themes, then I was like, you know what, let's just do this now. So Savannah's close enough. So this is, from my understanding, a Savannah on fire. It's pretty dire of a situation. And upon seeing the footage, it looks like a really short level, but it has a lot of cool mechanics, right? The whole thing is fire, basically. So like you're traversing ropes that are on fire. You got to extinguish them with these, they look like berries. I'm not really sure what they are, but it reminds me a lot to me of the closest game that I would play would be Crash Bandicoot. You would, go through this, at least the side-scrolling parts, and then eventually go into like these kind of bonus levels where you gain extra, bananas and stuff. Similar to Crash, where you find the question mark bonus levels and get more Wumpa fruit or boxes. And if I recall correctly, there was even this kind of like timed pickup that it changes depending on like when you strike it. It'll give you that reward. Crash has that too. So it looks like a really fun game, to be honest. But the music is really, really cool. It has that Savannah vibe. It's got that African vibe. And even though it's slightly not so much desert, I mean, the music kind of fits it. And honestly, it's my channel. I can do whatever I want. And if I get to hear more Donkey Kong, then that's a good thing. I have not heard that much Donkey Kong in my life. It's all been recorded here on this channel, and it's less than 10 times. I still hum Mining Melancholy all the time. So, yeah. This was also the one thing I didn't know, though, you guys can fill me in, is why is there such a hot level when the game is called Tropical Freeze? But that is Scorch and Torch from Donkey Kong Country, Tropical Freeze. Making its return on VGM Vibes, which was featured in the very first episode of the Forest Themes, we have Deserto Caliente, the desert hot level of this beautiful Metroidvania game. And I always recommend this game to people who love Metroidvanias. It's such a stylistic, beautiful game. It involves Juan, and the whole thing is like Mexican folklore and lucha libre and just that whole style, right? The Day of the Dead. It's really, really nice. It's really, really fun and challenging. There's a lot of mechanics, and I don't really want to spoil anything for anybody, but I'm also kind of covering up because I haven't played this game in like 10 years, so I don't remember exactly the plot. But one thing I left out when I heard when I like rechecked out this song is I forgot this soundtrack features 2 of each song, because there's a World of the Dead. In this game, there is a mechanic called like dimension swapping. I think that's the proper name of it, where you basically just change the way the whole world looks, and the songs actually dynamically change in real time at the click of a button. So this desert has 2 songs. It has Deserto Caliente and it has the World of the Dead version. 2 composers worked on this game, Rom DePrisco and Peter Chapman, but both of these are from Rom DePrisco. And this is one of the only, I think it is the only game featured on this list where there's rain in this desert, and that features a bit of an underground section. Well, no, there's another game that has that, but it's one of the few that have like an underground section. It's not just all like being a surface level on sand. It's a very intricate level, but the rain part is unique to it. And yeah, it's a really cool game, and I think it's still under the radar. They even have the updated version, which you can get now, and there's a Guacamelee 2, which is just as good. I really want to return to these games, but I've never heard a soundtrack like this. Basically, it's blending like mariachi and electronic music, which somehow works, and it's beautiful. As I was searching for desert themes and asking around, this one was suggested to me, and I'm glad I checked it out. The reason I did check it out is because I like to feature new stuff all the time, games I've never featured here before, and just hear new, fresh things, right? I haven't heard like anything Digimon related except for 2 songs on this channel, and they were from Cyber Sleuth. So I took the chance, and I'm so glad I did, because Badlands is, no lie, one of the catchiest songs in this entire list. It's very, very good. It's really, really short. It's like just a quick loop, but man, it's effective. It's effective, and it's a waltz time, which, 3/4 is kind of interesting. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Also features a triangle. I never heard a desert theme that features a triangle. One thing I found fascinating about this, though, is that this is a PS1 game released in 2002. I didn't even know that was a thing. So the PS2 was definitely out by now, and the PS3 was right around the corner. And a quick Google search told me that the last PS1 game that was made was actually in 2004, which is even more mind-boggling. So it's a really good-looking game. And one thing I saw in the comments of when I checked out this song and reacted to it was that, it sounds weird without the footsteps. It sounds almost incomplete. I was like, what? And when I saw footage of it, sure enough, the whole game, you just hear tick, 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 tick. Almost as loud as the song, if not louder. And the only thing I know about what's happening here is it's kind of this west sector, and it plays in the South Badland and North Badland. I don't know if it plays anywhere else. And it seems to be kind of like a difficult section of the game. Like, you kind of have to be ready when you're here. I looked up as much as I could, but that's kind of what I got from it. Also, composer Satoshi Ishikawa, couldn't find much information about him. Very few stuff he's worked on, mostly sound effects, but the couple of games that he's composed have been Digimon World. I think Digimon World 2 and 3 and 4, if I recall correctly. So not a lot of work under his belt, but really cool stuff. One of the catchiest songs here. I love it. I'm glad I heard it. And something's got to compete with Pokemon, and what better series than Digimon? Up next on the list is a game I've also never played called Secret of Mana, a Super Nintendo game. And I remember this game sticking out to me because I haven't heard it since 2021, and the next time I heard it was 2025. But it did make an impression on me. I remember the soundtrack, which was Oracle, to be very creepy, and it was also it was the very first time on the channel where I featured 2 songs in one video, so it stuck out. And when it was suggested that I should check out Secret of the Arid Sands, I was like, okay, let's check back. I don't know who the composer is. I don't really know any Super Nintendo at all, but I'm glad I did. So, composed by Hiroki Kikuta, who has been a part of a lot of the Mana series and also Romancing Saga, but I think is mostly sound effects in that game. Has been with Square for a while, and many other projects. So this one, I saw some footage, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of confused. So what I mean by that is when you arrive to this place called, I think, the Kakara Forest, it's one of these desert levels where you're kind of, it's like a maze. You're kind of lost, and you're going in and out of different places. Reminds me of a similar game. The closest thing I think I've played was Legend of Dragoon in the desert section in that game, which is terrible, by the way. It had the same kind of thing. You kind of just, like it looks wall-less, so every time you enter a new area, it looks like the same area, and you just try to find your way out. What I thought was funny, though, is when I was watching footage here, is like the characters had to arrive there by shooting themselves out of a cannon. And I don't know if that's common throughout the entire game or just for this place, but I just thought that was hilarious that they had to fire themselves into a cannon. Also, I didn't know until recording this video that this game got remade, and that includes the soundtrack and everything. I only heard the original song, and what I really liked about this place is the aesthetic. The aesthetic of the desert here is really cool. We got, the cactus, scorpions, and for some reason, jack-o'-lanterns. I don't know why that's a thing, but they were in here too. But they also have like the quicksand they can get sucked into. But one thing I really admired, I thought was kind of cute, was the shadows of the clouds in the sky above. I think that was a really nice touch. I haven't seen that in a game too much, and yeah. So Secret of the Arid Sands is this kind of very quick loop. It's not really. I mean, I guess I almost said it wasn't a song, but it's more of like an ambience. But it definitely has that sound of the mid '90s. If you like stuff like Chrono Trigger and things like that, it reminds me a lot of Chrono Trigger actually, the way it looks. So yeah, that is Secret of Mana, and I'm glad I checked it out. Hopefully I get to hear more. I think there's a lot of requests for it actually, and it just looks like a really cool game that a lot of people seem to enjoy and admire. We get to finally talk about a game that hasn't been featured here before. This is Pokemon Colosseum, a game I recently discovered through its soundtrack. Haven't heard very many songs, but I've been very impressed. This is Pyrite Town. And from what I gather of this whole game, pretty much this entire soundtrack kind of fits in this category of desert because it's based on like the United States Southwest and that kind of region. So like it looks like Arizona. And I think that's kind of the vibes here. So I think any song could have really worked there. But Pyrite Town seems to have a little bit of a cult following. So much so that the composer, which is Tsukasa Tawada, redid the song on their YouTube channel. So I highly recommend you go check it out. The whole song just kind of screams flavor, right? It's got this snap intro. It's just this jazzy thing, the stand-up bass doing its thing. It very reminiscent of the Pink Panther theme, if you're familiar with that, which you probably are. And I was really, it was really charming watching footage for this game because it reminded me of kind of a little bit of a lighter-hearted desert town in FF7, which is really dark, which is Corel. It's like this kind of mining town, right? But it's like, it seems, even though it seems jollier, it's still like a shady place. But I'm just saying, like, the aesthetics, it was like colorful and vibrant. But that's what's kind of funny is because the stuff that's happening is kind of dark. The people are kind of jerks, and I think even the police chief tells you to leave, like, get out of here. It's a little lawless, it's a little bit crazy here. And while this nice smooth jazz is playing, it's really it's a trip. And this is all in the setting of Or, I believe it's called, and that's the region of this, I believe, the game, but I could be wrong about that. One thing I really enjoyed, though, is I kept watching footage. I wanted to see the Colosseum part. I didn't hear the song, though, because I wanted to mute it. But I saw the Colosseum, and it totally fit the vibe as well. Like, it's all dilapidated, broken down. And one thing I really enjoyed was you can see the sunlight beaming down onto the floor of the shadow because it's a broken ceiling. And it's just a really cool thing. It looks like a fun game. And from what I also gather, since this is a GameCube game and kind of unique, this is one of the more darker games. You know, it's like you snag Pokemon, you kind of steal them, and your character Wes is not like the best protagonist. So everything about this game seems really interesting, and I really love the soundtrack, honestly. It's such a vibrant, cool thing, and I just can't wait to hear more of it.
Hi, I'm Alina Inverse. I play a lot of RPGs, JRPGs, indie games, and long story form games over on Twitch. But I'm here to talk to you about my favorite desert theme in a video game. Mine happens to be from one of my favorite GameCube games and also my first Final Fantasy. It's the Lenari Desert from Crystal Chronicles, and I just absolutely love a lot of music in this game specifically, but the desert theme really sticks out to you because it's not that typical sand level sound that a lot of other video games do. It does something completely different that you would have never even known it was like a desert theme. I love this level because of how challenging it can be, more so in the sense that you have to solve a puzzle to get a very specific element that you need in the game, and you can only get it from that puzzle. It can be very frustrating if you don't have all the clues because you're supposed to be picking up all these hints throughout your playthrough, and as a child, I didn't have them all, so I could not for the life of me figure it out. I think I could get to like 2 or 3 of the hints and then I didn't know what to do, and this was back in the day, so I didn't have the walkthrough, I didn't have like the internet, I just had to try to figure it out on my own, and I couldn't. At least I got to listen to this song while I was doing it. The song in particular, though, Crystal Chronicles does this a lot with its soundtrack, but it makes you feel like you're not in a modern society. And I do that very well with a lot of the songs sounding very time period-y. I don't even know if that's a word, but it sounds very of its time. And they, again, do it very well. So it's a lot of horns and guitars and very Renaissance-y kind of feeling, very old. And I love that. I really love that. It's very pleasing to listen to. It's really, really nice. And this song captures that so well with all of those elements. But yeah, I think Lanari Desert is a wonderful desert theme, and I hope y'all love it too. And if this is your first time hearing it, I hope you really enjoy it and maybe go play Crystal Chronicles.
Hello, I am Rascal. My Twitch name is Rascal. You can pronounce it Rascal, whatever, not a big deal. Names are arbitrary after all. So the song I chose for this little featurette here is called Desert of Despair. It's from this really cool game called Ys 7, not to be confused with all the other Ys games that actually have titles. Well, that's not entirely true, but anyway, it's Ys 7. It's by Falcom Sound Team JDK, which, if you know a little bit about Falcom Sound Team, the members of it aren't credited individually by song. They're more of a collective. They are attributed just by name on the credits of the game itself, but you won't know who specifically worked on any one track, which is really weird. But they have a really sick, nasty sound featurette in all of the games they've done. So if you ever listened to like any of the Legend of Heroes games or any of the other East titles, or like Tokyo Xanadu, Falcom is a really small team of people, and they work often on things other than just the sound. But that's beside the point. It's kind of strange for them not to be credited. I chose this song because it is a deviation from a standard desert track. You're not going to get a lot of those like more typical Middle Eastern kind of Arabian Nights-y sounding type things. I think a good example of like what's a typical one would be like the Agrabah soundtrack, or the Agrabah song from Kingdom Hearts, or even the movie Aladdin. Rather, what this song does is it's a super rad rock adjacent phenomenon where you're in this desert, but you have these amazing guitar riffs just playing non-stop, looping over and over and over. And yes, you're in the desert and you're fighting like giant cactus and scorpions and vultures and giant centipede monsters that are 10 million levels higher than you, so it's like super challenging. But the whole time you're just having the best experience ever. Ys has this amazing gameplay loop where the story is pretty tame. You play as Adol and his eternal traveling companion Dogi, just going on another adventure. And in this adventure, you're trying to get to gain the powers of these 5 dragons to stop this oncoming calamity that you really don't know anything about. And that takes you into the desert, and you just fight stuff, and you go on. You roll, you dodge, you guard, you just non-stop go. You have these crazy bell sounds that's always playing. You have sweeping guitars going in and out. You have a non-stop aggression of percussion, just going. It really just adds this sweet element to an otherwise like really dry region. Instead of it being this, like this heat-laden, sand-crazed space, you really feel like you're in a place where you want to be. I know for myself, I don't usually like desert levels, but it's just like the best time out of all the regions you can go to because this song is so cool. Falcom also, if I'm not mistaken, they use exclusively digital instrumentation, which is a little different from other things. But I think because of that, it allows them to do things that are deviations from norms. And I really implore anybody that really loves cool music, check out Desert of Despair from E7. If you want to play it, it's a really short game, really, really cool. But yeah, thank you so much, Jesse, for this little section. I kind of blabbed more about nonsense. And to the viewers, keep watching Jesse. He's a real cool guy. Thank you.
A better way to follow up some Ys with some more Ys. This is Silent Desert from the Silent Sands. This also has a super arranged version, but we're going to be talking about the original. Ys is a game that I've discovered on the channel, and man, it's just been such a ripping good metal lead time. And I'm not gonna lie, I haven't seen much footage of it, but I saw a lot of footage for it for this episode in particular. And let's just say that all of a sudden an Ys game has appeared in my backlog. There it is, right there, Ys Origin. I saw it, I'm like, this game looks cool. It looks fast-paced, and it looks just... It totally makes sense as to why the music is so, rocking all the time. So this one is a little bit different, right? It's not necessarily desert, but it still fits the keywords of sand. This is a kind of sand part of a tower, which is very unique, right? It's just filled with this golden brown color palette, and it just looks like a whole lot of fun. I don't know exactly what was happening here because every room looked the same when I watched the playthrough, but it looked like a kind of maze-like section. It's just like a big melee section, really. Like just fight a lot, maybe level up, and it was just really cool. The music, though, is what kind of stands out, right? Ys is like to me, Ys is kind of like the backwards JRPG trope, sort of like, everything in Ys sounds like a boss theme when you're just walking around, but you're running, so it's not like you're just kind of casually strolling. And then, when it's time for conversation and stuff, then the music slows down a little bit. But as soon as it's over, But one thing I found very interesting is, I'm going to show it here at the end of this video in a second, is that if you like stuff like this, there is a Brazilian guitarist that I've been listening to for almost 2 decades now. His name is Oziel Zinho, and which is really funny. We're going to have this little full circle moment here. Oziel Zinho is definitely inspired by Yngwie Malmsteen, and Yngwie Malmsteen is a name I always bring up when it comes to a lot of Falcom and Ys, because of the music sounds a lot like Yngwie Malmsteen, really shreddy classical guitar. But also the song I'm going to show you in just a second is called Phoenix from Oziel Zinho, and Phoenix reminds me of the desert, and it just has like this full circle moment, I don't know, it might be a stretch, but yeah, Silent Desert, super cool, and I highly recommend you check out the following video on their channel, because I've been listening to forever, and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. If you like this stuff, you'll like Oziel's music. Also making its grand return to the VGM Vibe series, Sonic. Featured in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic & Knuckles, we have Sandopolis, an amazing song I'm glad was recommended to me, because it's the sound font that I'm familiar with. I grew up with the first 2 games, I kind of know them pretty well. I know the first one the most. So 3 was, it still feels really, really familiar, so hearing it for the first time it's so bizarre, right? It feels brand new, and yet it feels old at the same time. This song has this really good portrayal of danger in it, both Act 1 and Act 2, and upon seeing the footage, that is extremely accurate, which is quite fitting, right? The first half, or I should say the first act, you are outside, right? Very Egyptian looking, pyramids in the background, and one thing I really liked is this, in the background there's just like a mirage effect, and indicating heat. another desert trope. And it seems pretty dangerous out here too, right? We have like stingers everywhere, quicksand, and just dangers everywhere. And then when you get to Act 2, I think that is when things start to really take a drastic turn. You are inside a pyramid now, and has a unique mechanic where there is light and dark involved. So there's always darkness looming upon you, and what seems to be these ghost spirits following you around. And I couldn't find any footage of this actually happening, but apparently when it gets too dark, these ghosts start to kind of push you and disrupt your playthrough. But eventually you'll find these little light switches that make them go away. And apparently those ghosts are called Hudoros. News to me. But anyways, this song, both of them, have such great bass lines and have this whole essence of Phrygian that I talked about earlier at the beginning of the video. The bass line has that little dun dun da dun 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 da dun. Whereas the second act, the bass is just like way more prominent. It's all over the place. It's kind of like smeared everywhere, and even sounds crunchier somehow. I think Sandopolis is just one of those things that you hear once and kind of instantly becomes a classic. Although this also might be one of those songs where you really love the song but really hate the stage. I've seen a lot of people say that it's a really difficult stage, and one of the most difficult stages, and probably is giving you nightmares thinking about it right now, especially with the whole spooky vibe of it too, with the Act 2 of it. But Sandopolis is absolutely in the running as one of the best desert themes of all time.
Hello humans, I am Zordon of Doom. I am a singer-songwriter and I play video games on Twitch, and I also do reactions to music here on YouTube. And every Saturday for the past couple of years, I have been doing Sonic reactions every Saturday. Call them Sonic Saturdays. Last year, I started listening to the entire OST of Sonic Unleashed. I unfortunately have not played any Sonic game, but I have found out really quick how incredible the soundtracks for these games are. So a lot of my knowledge of the Sonic games comes from the Sonic community. Sonic Unleashed, unlike other Sonic games, has Sonic travel through different regions around the world, literally taking you, the player, and experiencing different countries, different sounds. And it is the diversity of this OST that has made it, I believe, a fan favorite. Arid Sands in particular is amazing. If we're comparing it to the real world, Arid Sands would be essentially the Middle East. Arid Sands has a day and the night theme. So the day themes are usually fast-paced, whereas the night themes are much slower because of the fact that at night Sonic turns into Werehog, who is a more powerful, albeit slower, version of his usual self. That dynamic of fast versus slow, day and night, allows the music to have more variety. I think when I first heard the Arid Sands day theme, all I could think about was, if I was a belly dancer, this was definitely a song that I could do this to. It's very fast-paced, and it definitely makes you want to hurry through the stage as Sonic. Arid Sands' night theme, however, is totally different. Listening to the two back to back was almost like whiplash, at least for me. Arid Sands' night theme is probably one of my, if not my favorite theme from Sonic Unleashed. Where did the brass come from? Where is this nightclub? Where is this jazz band? The night theme is an experience. And I feel like it's not your typical sandy desert theme, if you know what I mean. I think the one thing that is really interesting, if you look up Arid Sands and you read the comments, it seems like Arid Sands Day is not an easy level. A lot of people struggled with it. If you look into the comments for Arid Sands Night, you have a bunch of people warning others not to go up the stairs. And in all caps, too many fire mages. I absolutely love the Sonic community. They educate me every day about these games. But yeah, the OST is absolutely fire.
You know, when I started doing the VGM Vibe series, I wasn't expecting to feature Mortal Kombat as many times as I have. They were featured in the forest themes, and the fire themes, and the spooky vibes, and now here we are in the desert themes. And what better way than to talk about my favorite MK of all, which is MKX, or Mortal Kombat 10. No one calls it 10, they just call it MKX. This game was really special to me. I really enjoyed it when it came out. I can't believe it's been 10 years now. It's sickening to think 2015 was that long ago. But this game is really, really cool. It has the aesthetic that I really enjoy for this world, which obviously MK is very bloody and dark and, you know, kind of intense. The whole palette of this game, if you compare it to any of even the modern games, is really bland. There's a lot of browns and, you know, just dark greens and stuff like that. You know, it's a really dry palette. So the Outworld Marketplace was my favorite stage and my favorite song in the game. So it actually totally worked out. Every time I practiced, I chose it. Every time I had the option to choose the stage, I always chose it. It's this kind of like thriving market outside in the desert, and it just totally works. The musical composition by Dan Forden has this kind of rhythmic stab, dun dun dun, dun dun dun, which is very like cinematic and reminiscent of like older God of Wars for me. But I think the thing that's the takeaway from this is I've been very vocal in the past and even here, where Mortal Kombat music to me, as someone who's played it throughout their whole life, the quality of the music has kind of like dwindled. I'm sorry to say, but like the first 3 games were unbelievable soundtracks, and then they just kind of over time got really, really atmospheric and almost not even there. You can't even tell they're there. Including the soundtrack. MKX has a lot of that ambience, but here it just works so well. This is one of the few ambient tracks of this list, but it works. The way it works, all 3 rounds are different. The vocals sound really trippy and psychedelic. The percussion sounds really, really dope. This place even has a notable chapter early on in the story mode. You can see the whole Outworld Marketplace. But I just love everything that's going on. There's just so many things going on in the stage. It's really wide. One thing MKX featured were interactables, which mean you can like interact with the background of the stage to kind of get yourself out of a jam. Like you can traverse across the whole map, or you can kind of use an item to like as a reversal. And the most famous one in this game is throwing an old lady. And it's in this level. Her name is Blanche. You can literally throw an old lady at your opponent, and you can actually kill them with her. But the Outworld Marketplace is just it just reminds me of a good time, because I was in a really good spot in my life when this game came out. Still now, but especially in 2015. I got the collector's edition, which let me pull this guy out. I have had no reason to ever pull him out. And the reason I thought this was cool too is because that skin was featured in the game as well. It was a statue made by Course for the collector's edition. This game got Game of the Year, Fighting Game of the Year too. It was a really, really cool game. And my favorite character is in it, Kotal Khan. Or not my favorite character to play was in it, Kotal Khan. And it's just really good memories, you know. I love this stuff, and I wish the music kind of went in a different direction, but I'll take it. You know, Dan Forden is still a legend. He's been around since the beginning, and he is toasty, you know. So, but while I get out of here, there is no better way to follow up this video than with more Mortal Kombat and one of my favorite YouTubers, expert in the Mortal Kombat world, coming up next.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is TabMock99. First, I want to give a huge shout out to Jesse from Jesse's Auditorium for inviting me to talk about a desert stage from a fighting game. The one I picked, Jade's Desert from Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Now, even though Jade's Desert made its debut in Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, the first time it was shown is actually in Cyrax's ending in regular Mortal Kombat 3. It says, after eliminating Khan and saving Earth, Cyrax awaits new orders from his Lin Kuei headquarters. The orders never come, and Cyrax malfunctions. He ends up stranded in the middle of a vast desert, blindly heading towards his base. So that became a pivotal plot point for Cyrax in the Mortal Kombat lore. Yeah, Jade's Desert was actually front and center of an important point in the story. But the question remains, where exactly is Jade's Desert? The fact that it's called Jade's Desert implies that it belongs to her, so it must be part of Edenia or Outworld itself. On the other hand, Outworld was merged with Earthrealm at this point, so maybe this desert was a little bit closer to home. Well, that point actually gets resolved in a strategy guide for Mortal Kombat Gold. It says, the Lin Kuei cyber assassin unit LK-44, aka Cyrax, was lost after Shao Kahn's defeat. The deactivated Cyrax unit was found in China's Gobi Desert by agents of the Outworld Investigation Agency, led by Major Jackson Briggs. The next time we come back to this stage is Mortal Kombat 2011. Here, it plays another important role in Mortal Kombat's story. This is actually the place where Sindel's resurrection takes place. Now, as you can see, there's a giant statue of Sindel right behind me. That begs the question, why would there be a giant statue of Sindel? That implies that this time, the desert must be part of Edenia or Outworld. But that can't be right. I mean, Sindel has to be resurrected on Earthrealm in order for Khan's merger to make any sense. You know what? Just don't think too hard about why there's a giant Sindel statue behind me. The other cool thing about this stage is that the MK community managed to track down the actual photo of the real-life desert that was used as the basis for this stage. So, in case you're wondering, this is a picture of Death Valley in Southern California. And that's pretty much all you need to know about Jade's Desert. Huge shout out once again to Jesse from Jesse's Auditorium to invite me to be part of this desert collaboration. If you want to look me up here on YouTube, you can find me at TabMock99. You can also find me on X, Instagram, Twitch, Discord, and Blue Sky at the same username, TabMock99. Now before I go, let me ask you a question. Why can you never starve in the desert? Think about it. Why can you never starve while you're in the desert? Give up? Because of all the sandwiches there.
Up next, we have a little game called Spyro the Dragon, released in 1998 on the PlayStation from Insomniac Games, which I had to do a double take on. I was like, wait, is that the same Insomniac? I played this game when it came out, so I knew of Insomniac back then, but I didn't realize it's the same developers that is still really relevant today with the Spider-Man games and other stuff. So I was like, damn, they've been around that long. But this is a unique case in the video game world because this game was composed by Stuart Copeland, who, if you don't know, was the drummer for the famous band across the world, The Police. Songs you may know are Every Breath You Take, Walking on the Moon, and Message in a Bottle. I'm sure you or your parents know about that song, and I always found it interesting as to how this rock and roll Hall of Famer got to compose this game. And I'll leave links in the description explaining it better than I, like how his involvement and how he came up with this stuff, which is really cool. So I just wanted to mention though, if you noticed the soundtrack having a lot of emphasis on drums and good beats, it's because a drummer made them. And this is Clifftown, which is part of the Peacekeepers world. And one thing I like about this place is that it's really, really small. It's just a tiny little town. But one thing I miss in modern technology, I'm probably the only one too. This was also a factor in Medieval. If you ever played Medieval, one thing that made that game really spooky was the draw distance of the PS1. So too far away, it was just black. In this game, in Clifftown, in the original game, the draw distance made it look like you were in this kind of abyss of sand and like this kind of floating sky of just brown. Whereas the Reignited trilogy obviously made things look a lot better. So it made more sense to make everything look like sand dunes. But that was just a little thing that kind of bothered me, but it was not a big deal. But speaking of the Reignited trilogy, I really enjoyed it. It's really still holds up really, really nice. It looks fantastic. It's a beautiful game. Spyro is a really fun game. You know, it's I played it around the same time I played Crash, so it was like the late '90s. I really enjoyed it, and they were even like friends with each other. I remember if you input a code in one of the games, you could play a demo for the other game, and I think vice versa as well. But the thing that made Clifftown stand out to me, and the reason I chose it here is, well, the whole Peacekeeper's world is a deserty kind of location, but the reason I chose Clifftown is because for some reason in my head, it just always stuck to me of that long gliding section across the river. I don't know why. I think when I discovered that as a kid, I was just so like ecstatic because I wasn't really using the internet back then. I was like, wait a minute, you have to go from this point of the map all the way over here, which is like the max amount your glide can go. And that always stuck with me. So that's why it's here. And the fact that the song has an extreme like boomer dad rock sound to it, which is totally fitting because it's the Copeland. It totally works. So I'm totally glad to feature Spyro the Dragon here. And what better song than Clifftown in Peacekeeper's World? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a game that, I can't believe I'm saying this, but came out over a year ago now. And I beat it immediately as soon as it came out. I beat it twice, actually. I did not want to leave that world when I was playing it. And even though I spoiler tagged it at the beginning, I'm not going to talk about it too much here because it is still kind of an early, game. A lot of people haven't played it. But I will show something that's kind of spoilerish in this, so you've been warned. It is footage. What I will say about it, though, this game was really special, right? And the song that I'm talking about is the Corel region, not to be confused with Corel itself, but the outside region where you do all the side quests and travel around in the buggy, and it's all under the Gold Saucer, which is really telling, right? You can tell the Gold Saucer, this big amusement attraction place, has like sucked up all the resources and there's like nothing left. And it's a really cool location, even though it's just like this very vast section. But I love the song here. The violin was stuck in my head the whole time I was playing it. When you watch my playthrough of it, there's times where I'm just like da 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 doom doo doo doo. And a little special shout out for the Corel Prison song as well, which I didn't feature, but it was still pretty good too. But the thing I wanted to mention, there's two things here, and it's a real bummer, but only in the story mode do you see the Corel region in this sort of sunset aesthetic, and it looks gorgeous. It's like orange, and you can't ever see it again like that in the game. It's always just this dry afternoon. But the spoiler warning, this is something that I thought was kind of interesting because it's still a thing to this day. When I played this game, I found this little Easter egg after a very big moment, and I remember telling people about it then. They're like, "Whoa, I never noticed that," because the game doesn't tell you at all, and you just have to kind of stumble upon it yourself. Even still to this day, there's probably people that are going to find out for the first time right now, because when I asked for footage for this, which I asked my mod, shout out Ninja Fox, I told them to go to this location so you can record this, and they didn't even know that this was there too. So I'll just show it on screen, but it's a little Easter egg that the game never tells you about, and I thought it was pretty cool. But the Corel theme is really, really nice. It even has its own battle version of it as well, which is basically the same song, just with more percussion and more intense. But yeah, really beautiful stuff. FF7 Rebirth is a game that I really, really enjoyed. It wasn't perfect, it had flaws, but it still was a really good time. A lot of music in this game can be talked about, and I think, I was going to say every FF7 fan should play it, but that's a whole other can of worms. But it's still, for what it is, it's a huge undertaking. You can tell there's a lot of love and detail into this, and I loved almost just about every moment of it. So Corel theme was a big part of that. Making its return to VGM Vibes is the Nier series. I have featured it quite a bit because the music from these games are absolutely incredible. And the song I'm going to be talking about is The Lost Forest, which you might be confused about if you never played the game. Like, why is it called The Lost Forest? To be honest, I don't even know. It's kind of confusing because it plays in a really vast area that covers different type of biomes, but it's mostly associated with the desert. I think 9 times out of 10 you hear the song, it's going to be in the desert region, which in this game you hear a lot of because unfortunately you do not unlock fast travel for until like pretty much the end, and that's just kind of that's the way it is, right? You have to walk through a lot of places or ride a giant boar. But Nier Replicant, as much as I praise this game and its amazing soundtrack, I've stated multiple times that the side quests in this game are like super redundant and kind of hinder the game a little bit, but the story was still fantastic. But yes, the music is just a whole other level. And this is one of those cases where I'll partake in the debate where I usually don't. The debate being, oh, the original soundtrack was better, or the replicant version, 1.22 was better. Whatever, whatever you like. But in this case, this song, to me, it's a clear winner that the replicant version, 1.22 version of The Lost Forest is superior by a long shot. Everything is cleaner. The bass and the percussion sounds way sharper. The guitar is no longer this reverbed thing that's way in the background. Now it's up close, or the stringed instrument, I should say. They also added way more of the stringed instrument. It makes the original sound like a demo, really. And yeah, I'm just full bias. I love the replicant version, 1.22 version. And that's pretty much it. I don't want to talk too much about what's going on here because I associate the song with certain scenes, and it's just best experience yourself. But despite the name of the Lost Forest, the desert theme of this place, which is a really small desert, by the way, you don't really spend too much time here. You just kind of walk through it. It's still one of the best songs in the entire game. I love the acoustic guitar progression at the beginning. And I forgot to mention that it has little remnants of the vocals in the song, or the same ones that you hear in the Forest of Myth, aka the reading section of the game. And I thought that was a nice little detail. But yeah, Nier Replicant, of course, if I can talk about it, I will. Of course, we cannot talk about Nier Replicant without talking about Nier Automata, my preferred game in the series, and a very special one at that. I really enjoyed my time with this game, and there's a lot to talk about here. I think this is actually one of the songs that most people probably think of when you think of desert themes, because it's that relevant. This is one of the games where the desert is really vast. There's like almost nothing in it. It's a really large area with close to nothing going on, a couple enemies, some pipes, and an oasis. But it's a really empty spot, a lot of sandstorm too. But one thing I really enjoyed about the desert in Nier Automata is this thing I'm kind of fascinated with, and which is another reason I gravitated towards Automata a lot, is the whole look of civilization after we're gone, Because once we're all gone someday, it's all just going to be like buildings left over and overtaken by shrub and nature, right? And in this section, there's the whole apartment section, the housing area, and it's just filled with the desert. It's nature's taking its course. And at that point, when you get to that part of the game, that's when the vocals kick in from Janique Nicole, who is another reason I wanted to feature here, is because the main singer of the Nier series has been Emmy Evans up until this game, where Janique Nicole makes a couple of appearances, and she has such a great sound to her voice, and she's also featured in a beautiful song as well. And it's just such a great soulful sound that complements the soundtrack so well. It's, to my knowledge, the only soundtrack she's actually worked on too, as far as a game, which is kind of devastating. I hope she does more. I've seen her live as well with Emmy Evans during the Nier concert. But this is also one of the few composed by Kuniyuki Takahashi, who was from Monaka at the time. And also, I didn't know this until recording this, but he's also listed as the trombone player in Nier. So anytime you hear trombone, it's also him. Really, really cool. But yeah, Memories of Dust is a really beautiful, atmospheric desert song, which to me is one of those songs where I think if you heard it without even knowing what's going on, you would probably assume it's a dry, desolate, endless land.
Whether in the background or foreground, whether subtle or grandiose, music changes the lens through which we view a piece of art. It has the ability to contextualize a character and their surroundings through feeling alone. Without even knowing why, you can fall in love with a piece of music and the story it tells. That was my experience playing Octopath Traveler. Octopath allows you to pick among 8 protagonists with whom to start your journey. Having a background in dance and a history of liking desert themes, I began my journey with Primrose. I'm not sure if I'm able to properly portray the experience I had upon first hearing the Sunlands theme, but the words that feel best at this moment are that it felt like home. I was only 2 hours into my now 3-year journey with Octopath. The music up to this point had already been incredible, but this was the moment I knew this game would stick with me forever. I stopped everything I was doing and just listened, swaying back and forth, and I wanted nothing more than to dance. I find it incredible how area themes can manage to not only tell the story of the climate and the people who live there, but also the characters themselves and the journeys they will face. There are so many ways in which a composer or musician could portray a desert. Harsh and dry during the day, cold and empty at night. A bright flowering oasis, its beauty shining in contrast to its surroundings. Lifeless and yet full of life. Wonderful and despairing. This landscape of glittering sand somehow calling to you. The Sunlands theme manages to capture the many aspects of a desert, but I feel that its composer, Yasunori Nishiki, chose to emphasize the beauty and wonder that a desert can carry, along with its vast and dry nature. The music encapsulating the story of our protagonist, a flower graceful amongst the sands, who has been forced to call this place her home. Coupled with the Sunlands theme, Primrose's theme is easily one of my favorite pieces from the game. Her song had a special impact on me when contrasted against the snowy setting of her second chapter. Once again, I simply sat there, listening to the music. Beautiful, graceful, sorrowful, afraid. It didn't belong in this setting, but it belonged with the character that found herself here. A dance captured in music, mirroring every bit the experiences Primrose was now facing, only deepening my appreciation of the story being told. I believe stories are best experienced blind. There is so much to be gained from one's personal experience with them, and so it is for that reason I will keep things brief and leave you with a final note. I've been amazed as I've revisited these songs and others from the Octopath series to see how much can be gleaned through feeling alone upon a first listen. The music itself tells the story, and as such it only adds to the story that unfolds through visuals and narration. Even the desert itself, through subtle world building with music and text, allows the player to learn about the kind of people that live there. Harsh, hardworking, resilient people. Kind people, who work together to survive in the deceptive beauty of the desert. Yasunori Nishiki is a master of his craft, and it's in moments like these where I find special gratitude in the ability to experience music. There will be beautiful music in all ages, master musicians and genius lyricists of their times, but for me, I'm glad to live in a time where I can experience pieces like these. I somehow feel lighter after listening to them, making the next step in the dance of life that much easier. Enjoyable even. I'm reminded of the beauty that exists even amongst the desert sands.
Up next, we're going to talk about a game called Kirby Air Ride. I don't know much about this game. I never played it. And I'm going to keep this one brief, but I will say that it made a huge impact on me. This song is amazing. It's really brief because it's kind of like a really quick, short track. I should mention that Kirby Air Ride is a racing game. I did not know that. And I've only heard it 2 times ever. Yeah, I'm pretty sure just 2 times. So I barely have heard anything. But it's also kind of funny timing because they just announced the Kirby Air Riders game coming. And upon looking the footage of where this takes place in the Sky Sands, really beautiful area, right? It's exactly what it sounds like. It's literally like a desert type sandy location in the sky. It's quite literal. But the game looks very jarring. Like the camera's really close. You know, I played a couple racing games and I tend to like the camera a little further back, but this one's like really close, so it feels faster, but it's also more of a jarring camera movement. And what I gather is there's like enemies and stuff you can like take down on the track itself that you can like suck up and, you know, use against them, that kind of thing, which is really cool. But this song, dude, this song, I wish it was longer. And I'm not sure if there's any other songs like this in the soundtrack, if it's just like the only one that has this sort of Middle Eastern flavor, but they did it so well. It was composed by Shogo Sakai. And man, it's just, I've been hearing this song like nonstop since I heard it. So I had to feature it a little further up in the episode. But Sky Sands, Kirby Air Ride, fantastic. The next song to be featured on the list is Gerudo Valley from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, otherwise known as Gerudo Fortress. This is a song a lot of people were probably expecting, and including myself. This is one of the songs that I heard way before the auditorium. It's a song that's like so popular that I don't even know where I heard it the first time. I thought about it long and hard, and I have no clue. It was probably a remix somewhere or something. But if you've been alive on this planet long enough, I think eventually you're going to hear da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum. So hearing it properly on the channel was a really nice treat, and then like hearing it proper and then just getting the context for it and seeing where it plays in this sort of like jail section. Mind you, I never played this game, so I don't want to like say something and it's inaccurate, but from what I gathered, it seems like this kind of place of, well, like a fortress that's heavily guarded and you're not supposed to be there, basically, and you get caught and you try to weasel your way out, and you're saving, I think, innocent people. That seems to be the gist of it. But on top of that, the song is the important thing here. I have a lot of notes here. Gerudo Valley is, I think, one of those songs that kind of transcend, like, not even desert themes. It's like one of the most, I think, popular video game songs of all time. That's how it feels to me. And it was kind of proven to me when I was doing some research for it, because I was looking up some of the music theory behind it, and it's in the key of F sharp minor, right, which is irrelevant to a lot of you. But the reason I think it's so funny is because there's two really big songs in the world that use the exact same chord progression, and I believe even the exact same chords as Gerudo Valley, and they have millions, if not billions, of hits. And those two songs are Don't Tell Me You Love Me by Night Ranger. If you listen to the chorus, right when he says the name of the song, Don't Tell Me You Love Me, you'll hear Gerudo Valley in there. And there's a song called Dance Monkey from Tones and I never even heard of the song, but it may not even be your cup of tea, but if you know that knowledge now, that it's literally Gerudo Valley underneath it, you might like it. So for me, this is a really special song because a lot of people don't know this, but I've been playing guitar for like a little over 20 years now. And the first, let's say, decade of that was just purely electric guitar, like metal stuff, and like high school bands and all that. But after those first 10 years, I started to really get into flamenco and fingerstyle stuff. To this day, I still get asked why, my nails on my right hand are a little longer, and that's because they're picks. And I did that for a long time. There was a time where I only recorded and played, fingerstyle nylon guitar, and I had to learn a lot of the techniques. And one of those is a technique called rumba, which is exactly what's happening here. It is that little da 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 da. It's this kind of flamenco thing where it's the use of. The thing about flamenco is that it heavily relies on kind of like a one-man band type of thing. So like the guitarist is doing the rhythmic stuff, hitting the body and playing the chords. So I don't know how well it'll translate here because I wasn't really preparing for this, but like something like taking this technique and then putting chords of it. That kind of thing, that is like what seems to be like the foundation for Gerudo Valley, except those are the wrong chords. So if I were to take the idea of rumba with the chord progression of Gerudo Valley, it would be... Right, in the key of F sharp minor. So it's a really fun way to play, and it's a really dynamic way of playing, but also very reminiscent of Spain and the Andalusian cadence, which one of the most popular songs probably ever, which is Bamboleo from the Gypsy Kings. I think if you heard that song, which you probably might have in the past, within, I don't know, 20 seconds of hearing that song, you'll hear Gerudo Valley and stuff like that. It was probably inspired from. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I had to make sure. Bamboleo came out in 1987, so it very well could have inspired Gerudo Valley. Anyways, I think one of the most iconic things that people think about when it comes to desert is probably this song here, and I wish I could talk about it more in depth, but since I never played it, and I've yet to ever play Zelda, and have yet to meet Link, it still gets high praise from me. And one more thing, actually, is there is an amazing version from this YouTube channel called Mariachi Entertainment System, or MES, and they did that song justice. They did it in a Mexican mariachi style, and oh my gosh, dude, the trumpets, incredible stuff. Highly recommend you check that out after this. It's about time we talk about the orange marsupial known as Crash Bandicoot from the PlayStation 1, the mascot of Sony for a while. I loved this game growing up. It was my favorite of the first 3 games. And the song we're going to be talking about is Hang 'em High, which is a song for the kind of like Agrabah looking levels, look very Aladdin inspired. It's Hang 'em High, High Time, and Flaming Passion. My favorite one being the nighttime one. This was supposed to be, fun fact, I've never done this before. This was going to be the last song of this list. This is the one that I initially thought was going to be the inspiration for the whole episode, because I haven't really talked about Crash and the impact of Josh Mansell, the composer, who was responsible for creating all these lovely tunes that have stuck with us. Right, the little dun 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 dun, that whole island sound that Crash has. That's all from the genius of Josh. But some other songs came up, and yeah, so the thing about this place is that it's basically the world of Aladdin. We got flying carpets, we're jumping off of awnings, there's the clay pot stuff, and it's just that whole vibe, right? But one thing about this song is that this song just hits so hard. It has such a strong percussive element to it that I really love, and they're reminiscent of this percussion called the doumbek or the darbuka. And I had to look that up because I had no idea. And it's just a great sound of that whole Middle East sound, as well as having microtones, or I should say it has a very microtonal sound with the lead dun 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 dun, meaning those little notes that are in between, a semitone or a half step. They're really, really close to each other, which is, again, really prevalent in Middle Eastern sounds. This song also features a second version, which is the more intense gem route version, or if you take the skull or death route, there is a faster version of it. But I think one of the coolest things about doing this was I got to have a tiny conversation with the composer themselves, who couldn't make it on here, but still gave me a little tiny bit of insight as to how they came up with this. And this is the part of the email that I'll share with you. It's from Josh Mansell. The only things I remember are I wanted it to sound somewhat legit in terms of sounding Middle Eastern, so I chose instrument samples that were appropriate. And this track has the honor of being the only Crash theme that is not in 4/4 time, which I thought was kind of interesting. That is a pretty fun fact, and yeah, that's the case. This, I should say one more thing too. I did no research on the Insane trilogy, even though I like the Insane trilogy and I played it recently. I didn't do any research on it. I don't know if that was a different arranger, if Josh came back, I have no clue. But overall, for me, like, my bias is so heavy with the original soundtrack of Crash that it's just, it's like untouchable. And I heard the remake version of Hang 'em High, and it just did not do it for me. It lost all of its hard hitting nature, and it just became more like mysterious, and it just didn't fit for me. So I love the song. Every time I think of like anything Middle Eastern or this entire vibe, the desert, my brain always defaulted to this exact song here. So it's nice to be able to share it. But there's still some more, and including some honorable mentions that are coming up next. My first honorable mention is a game called Journey, which, as you can see from the cover art, is entirely sand. It's a whole desert. Every stage is a desert for the most part. But I'm going to be talking about the song called The Road of Trials, composed by Austin Wintory. It is the 4th level of the game, where it is sunset and you are mostly just surfing and gliding down this sort of downhill slope the whole time. It also features one of my favorite scenes in a video game ever, which used to be my phone background for many, many years, and that is when you go into this side scroller section, and it's the most beautiful lighting I've ever seen ever, and you got the mountain in the background just glistening, and everything is just, it's gorgeous. It's like the most gorgeous 10 seconds of a game ever. And it's an amazing standout song. The whole soundtrack is eligible for this theme, and I just chose this one because it's beautiful. My other honorable mention is Dot Tamachi from the game Shin Megami Tensei 5, a game I recently just played, but the demo version of 5 Vengeance, the starting area of that game, and the whole entirety of the demo was this song. It was just a big open desert of Tokyo, what used to be, and it's like dilapidated buildings, and just it's awesome to look at. But the song is best described as what? So I heard someone describe it as a smorgasbord, and that's like the perfect explanation of what's happening. The music kind of makes no sense. Ryota Kazuka is kind of this master of weird sounds that just sound ambient and borderline just creepy, and it just works so well. So I put it here because I can't wait to play this game and finish it. But that's it for my honorable mentions. For this last song, like I said, Crash was supposed to be the kind of inspiration for the video. But the more and more I thought about it, I went with my gut instinct as to what I thought should be here. And it was kind of a no-brainer after some thought. And I can almost guarantee you probably never even heard this song. And that's coming up next. The final song on this list is from a game called Puzzle & Dragons Cross for the 3DS, and I don't have a whole lot to say because I never played it, and this game is really hard to get any information on, but I think all the circumstances combined, I think this is to me like the ultimate desert theme, and it is for so many reasons. First of all, one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is I looked back on my reaction of it, and it is one of my lowest performing videos I've ever done. It's got about 800 views, which I'm not gonna knock, it's still a lot of views, but for me that's kind of like lower than average. So a lot of people didn't even give it a shot, and it's so good. First of all, it's Yuzo Koshiro, so that needs no introduction as far as composition. But from what I gathered, this is it's hard to find info on it too. I think what seems to be the case is it was a mobile game that was adapted into a 3DS game, not available in the States, and it comes in 2 different versions of the game as well. So I don't know what Puzzle & Dragons is, but you know, it exists. Also, I thought it was really cool is that the requester for this also helped me to obtain footage for it. So they're going to be happy when they see this, because not only did their request get love again, but you know, they also provided the footage so I can see exactly what's happening. And it looks pretty, you know, run-of-the-mill desert location, kind of like a canyon area. But the song, dude, the song is, I don't know, it just kind of spoke to me. Similar to how Ennio Morricone's music speaks to me. And for those that don't know, Ennio Morricone is my favorite composer of all time. So anytime something can remind me of that sound, that Western sound, works. But not only that, is that this song is not only composed very well and loops perfectly, but saxophone. Desert themes, saxophone, it's not a usual combination. And then again, Yuzo Koshiro behind the wheel. It's just, I couldn't help it. I've heard the song so many times since I reacted to it, and it's just funny how, like, maybe now people will go check out my reaction to it, but it's, for being one of my least performing videos on here, I think this is completely slept upon, which makes sense, right? It didn't make its way to the United States. I'm not even sure if it left Japan, to be honest. It's hard to find information on this, but even in the reaction that I did for it, there was only 2 comments on it. So it's I'm glad and I'm honored actually to like signal boost this song. It's gorgeous, and in my opinion, the best desert theme. That is my list. Thank you very much for watching the VGM Vibe series. It's been really fun. If you want to know the theming of the next episode I do, that is going to be credits songs. So get your credit themes ready. Please don't put them here. Wait for me to make a post somewhere and then tell me there. But I'm really excited for that one because, well, you'll see. But upon doing this, I learned a lot of things doing this episode. There's a lot of flavors to the desert, and I can feel this episode, if that makes any sense. The color palettes, the oranges, the golds, the browns, the all that. I can feel the cacti and all that, and the music is really cool. It's a really nice area to visit in video games, and the music is a big part of that. So let me know which songs I missed. I'm sure there's hundreds, and which ones you'd like to see in perhaps a future episode. But that is it. So I will see you in the next episode of Credits Teams. Thank you to all the guests here. I really appreciate their time and effort to be a part of this. I really admire it. It's such a cool thing to be able to collaborate on YouTube. It's like the spirit of YouTube for me. So thank you all very much. Check out their channels, follow them. They have my vouch, so if that means anything. So thank you again for watching VGM Vibes, and I'll see you in the credits section. Thank you to everyone you see on screen. I couldn't be here without them. I truly mean that. Thanks to you for watching. My name is Jesse in the auditorium. Peace.